at this
Yeah,
point.
not
right?
randoms,
Xintra,
right?
Bolka, Zerini, Ninu, Spunky. Zerini's in the intro for this 2 or 3 times, so you know he's going to be able to show up.
Yep.
Along with the fact that him, Ninu, Spunky have been to the top of the top before. Xintra and Bolka have a LAN win under their belt. There's a lot of talent on 5randoms, so you might say 5randoms, but realistically, it's a bunch of guys coming together, kind of forming a power team. The only weird note.
Sure.
Spunky's playing DPS. That's a little different than what we've seen out of him for 4 years, 3 years, however long. It's been a little while, so it'll be a fresh look.
And they'll have Bolka playing support for them. Somebody who has absolutely, been there and done that in his own regard. So I'm excited to see Spunky, though, on the DPS side. I think that's going to be very interesting. Looking over at ChromaSpace, they have Ovim and Curiel, I think, are probably the big names on that team, but they have a pretty good supporting cast as well.
I mean, Nalubka has been around the scene for a long time. The same thing, actually, for Adam and Nepo. They've been in this area. If you want to roll it back to, like, PGS days, you would probably see them playing for some CIS teams. But this is Ovim doing the damn thing part 5, part 6. Like, he's just got another team together of guys that are more than capable of doing it. And he is the #1 guy in taking a team that is like minor league level and getting them to land somehow. So I expect a lot out of any team that has Ovim on it.
Well, you touched on it just a little bit. What are your expectations for Spunky in that DPS role here today?
I'm not sure, honestly. I don't know if I should set the bar low because he's been playing, Maldamba for 4 years and pretty much only Maldamba along with like a sprinkling of Genos, or if it should be really high because he's been playing Paladins for so long. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. I think Nunu is definitely going to be the bulk of the damage that comes out from this. So probably, especially since Nunu is normally a blaster, looking towards more hit scan-esque champions for Spunky to maybe help him coast into this DPS role.
Well, this region, EU, so contested, and picks and bans, I think, largely have been, I would say, similar across regions.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if there are adaptations from kind of the week 1 of qualifiers moving into this week 2. I kind of want to highlight Rom because he was in a good, I think, healthy spot there in week 1. We saw some counter to him, Genos being maybe that big name that comes out. You maybe pick that Genos against the Rom, guaranteed lockdown with that Void Grip. Do you imagine Rom will still be in a pretty contested spot this week?
I think he's going to be contested. I think we're going to see him pretty much stay in the same spot he was, though not necessarily, scoop him up first pick unless Genos is off the table, but look at him for like top 5 overall as someone who can come through and make a big play. But the minute 5randoms, like the minute you see a ban like that against Genos, that starts to kind of signify to me that's going to be one of the tanks.
Well, Rom banned out. Agreed. And I think ChromaSpace agreed. I feel like maybe that's a bit of signaling there. And looking at healers, it's been so much Genos and Furia. Oftentimes it's been one or the other banned out. Now we're going to get to see both banned out. What are maybe those next 2 names that kind of jump out at you?
Man, Grover has been very big up there. And on Warder's Gate, I think that's actually a very, very good map for Grover as well. But then you start maybe going down, not necessarily into the dregs. That's when you start to hit that threshold of like, okay, who are you looking at? Io is still someone I think who can work out well. This is another map for her. Maybe not the most known map for an Io pick, but she can make it work really well here. And admittedly, when you go down from there, I'm putting Rom back in my mind, but like there's a lot of damage reduction that can come from an Io that you could potentially try to set up here. So it'll be interesting to see what they want to go with. But we've also had, specifically out of, Bolka, when it comes down to it, he doesn't mind playing some Saris. They don't mind like going into the picks that are very infrequently played but can still have a huge impact on the right hands.
I almost kind of think Ying when I think of Bolka as well. I think that's a huge, it's amazing. And I imagine that's something, if need be, that'll come out here. Leon, Barrack, Ruckus, first 3 there for 5randoms. So I guess if we're led to believe this is Spunky's role, this is going to be a look at a Leon for Spunky.
Hey, I mean, look, if he can hit Maldamba heals as consistently as he has over years.
That's true, right.
I expect his Ying to be, or not Ying, Leon to be way up there for him and to function pretty well. It's interesting to see what they've been padding with. I think Barrack makes sense here. Never would have called the Ruckus first pick, but when you look at the names that are on the team, it starts to make a lot of sense. Actually, Ruckus could be really big in this set just because of Coriel, Xintra, Zerini, and Ovim. All 4 of them very big on that. And being able to flex around like that is just so huge. And, I mean, he kind of fills the same-ish role as Rom.
And Damba, we brought him up. mainly talking about Spunky, but going to be Bolka piloting that Damba here. Inara, another name that jumps out with the likes of Accentra and Ovum in this set. I think Inara could be a contested pick as well. Buck, that seemed to jump out at you a little bit.
Yeah, that's not...
Literally.
I mean, he hasn't been here for a long time, although he did start to show up more towards the end of last year. I think that was like the showcase, people realizing he fits in the meta again. It's just trying to figure out where, what maps, and what you need around him to make him work. I think this kind of lineup will be solid for him, but you're going to have to look out very carefully.
Well, this is your Week 2 EU Finals. 5randoms and ChromaSpace. Finch, take it away.
Of course I will. Thank you, Dolson and Gormizer. It's Finch and Kresnik here on the call as we move into this very first map. We are on Warder's Gate. And you saw that Buck come in towards the end. You want to talk to me a little bit about that? Who is he looking for on the other side? Is he looking for this Grover, for the Vivian? What are we expecting out of him?
I think he's looking to just harass and bully from this side, honestly, live as long as he can. I think he's in a good place right now, especially in this game with Genos banned. Kind of a hard counter, catching him mid-leap, but after the nerfs to cauterize this patch with Genos gone, he can just live. Bulk up gives him so much sustain that no one else can really contest with, and solid DPS line, I think, from both teams. I think that Leon is going to look great on Spunky. It's kind of been almost the only champion he's been playing on DPS, at least from what I've seen in their matches before, and BK Vivian on the other side, these tanks are going to have a tough time on 5randoms.
Spunky going to really need to come through on this Leon. You heard them talk about a bit on the desk before the game kicked off, that he's in a bit of a different spot here than you might have expected normally on this DPS role now. Has managed to find decent positioning underneath, but early on, ChromaSpace have a great amount of percentage. They found first blood as well. That's Ninu on that Buck we were worried about. He's already starting to say hello underneath, trying to battle it out with this Inara if he can, but he's got Spunky here to provide support. That's one more for them, and that should now be 5random with some decent control over this first point fact. They're going to move beyond, take down Adium, move in on the Ruckus as well. Can't quite get the trade with the Vivian, but they answer it back too, thanks to a little bit of help from the Barrack. Not bad for 5randoms.
Oh, for sure. They had a great start with their off-tanks on the side, pinching them into Ninu, and you can see how patient he is. He just has to wait. Buck engaging into that team, not really going to work, but letting Zarini pressure first and push them into his view is exactly what they need to do. And this Ruckus first pick, I think, is shining right now. It's Warder's Gate. He can go flying anywhere with those crystals. He was dominant before he had 3 rockets at base, and now, with all those in here, you can see the impact he's able to have.
It's been strong here so far. Zarini now finally getting a bit locked down, but even still able to regroup back with the team and buy some time. This is a pretty big deal. They've got a lot of time to work with here. Another 2 minutes trying to get this next payload actually pushed in. And you're seeing a pretty decent defense come out from ChromaSpace as well. They don't want to give up too much this early positioning as they grab 2 kills in the kill feed, and that should be enough to force this reset out from 5randoms and buy them some time.
Maybe a little bit too zealous, I think, from 5randoms trying to keep that held down. Ruckus can't really withstand the pressure, especially against a Vivian. So much damage just consistently coming out of that hit scan, especially with Nepo piloting it. Nepo, someone who's kind of been a rising star so far in this PGS, performed great last week, losing to D69 early. And I mean, just looking at it, these are 2 teams that could have been in the finals last week if the brackets were different. I think we can see why with how this mid's already gone so far.
Even though it was a strong early fight from 5randoms, ChromaSpace have come right back in to answer back, and they shut down Kirill. Nice job. But a double for Adam on this Bomb King. The BK proven to be a little bit too strong. That's going to force 5randoms to start dipping out. Another kill from Ovo Nepo right there as well. And ChromaSpace starting to show that this is not going to be an easy push for 5randoms at all.
Vivian's so hard to dive, you could tell. Ninu Zarini, they got into the back, they got some kills, but if you want to focus anyone, it can't be Nepo. I think Undying so far, right now on a 9 streak, but very, very tough to pin down with that personal shield. And you can see, look at Buck's health. He already has to use recovery.
When you're just trying to find a way to move back in, and now has the backup coming through from the Khan, who steps forward. Good CC onto him, though. Does drop the shield for a moment. You can tell there from where they're fighting, still on the midpoint, how little ground is actually earned by 5randoms here so far. Finally, they take Nepo out. That's critical. Ninu getting himself a double kill on the Buck that we were worried about early on. Now with good positioning on this Inara as well, and this could finally be what needed for 5randoms trying to get them back in this fight. Zarini gets one into Ovum here as well.
5randoms draft is just so solid for this. You can see this aggression. Who do they focus? There's nobody on that team you really want to shoot at. Leon has Enlightenment to survive. Ruckus has a midder, recovery on Buck. There's so many ways to just stay alive under pressure. ChromaSpace has to rely so much on their CC that I feel early game is where they have to win, and that's not happening right now.
I mean, but it's hard not to notice that getting rid of this Vivian did open things up quite a bit, right, in that last fight. So that's going to be critical for them moving forward, as now we are into the overtime. This push is going to have to be the push. Shield out from Exentra, trying to buy a little bit of time, but it's the back line that's really struggling. He holds the front line down quite well. Ruckus, though, does at least force Khan back, buy his team a little bit of time, but this is a difficult push now for 5randoms. Really, with only the Dome Shield in the back pocket, ChromaSpace have all 5 ultimates available to them.
They spent 2 ultimates, though, on the right side. They're not even contesting the main, really. The Barrack is staying alive. There tries to Dome Shield, but Ovum finds him.
Exentra, already eliminated. Ovum's really starting to show up now here for him on this Inara, but Ninu coming through to keep this one going on the Buck. Now another double kill. This Buck is getting to the back line. Randoms actually make the push happen, get in and make it 2-0.
You need some hard CC for the Buck, and what they have just isn't connecting. And he's on a tear right now.
It really is, and I think that they were a bit right to talk about this on the desk, right? We do not see a ton of Buck, but they did say this could be a map where he might work in some situations. So it ends up working out for them there. They're able to get that payload pushed back in. Talk to me about how this next point fight is going to go, though, because I don't know how much more time ChromaSpace might have.
I think it's a lot that I think ChromaSpace have to find that overpower. I think it's a lot of pressure on that Khan. They need to get some sort of immediate delete so they can play that 5v4 game. Because if they play 5v5, if they play these little 1v1s, they're not going to win them. Maybe Nepo will, but 5randoms are so mobile. They're just going to leave. If they see Nepo there, they're just not going to contest him.
Haven't really been feeling like sticking around. I mean, we saw what happened when Ninu tried to make the entry and had to go through Nepo. He paid a hefty price in terms of HP. It's not going to be an easy task. Ninu's been spotted out here this time and pulled back in as well. This is huge from Coreal to be able to lock Ninu down early on in the fight. Ruckus trying to force his way in as well, but takes a ton of DPS just on the entry. So far, not a bad fight for ChromaSpace, but Exentra starting to get involved as well. Adam wants to turn things around, though. King Bomb says hello. Decent damage on the Vulcan. He's now been removed, too.
Perfect juke on the Hexafire there as he goes down, and it looks like just Exentra singing his swan song on the point.
Yeah.
Has to give it up, and double comeback for ChromaSpace. They shouldn't be able to retake this. I think that was a great start by them, honestly. Pulling Ninu and focusing it. Maybe they didn't need to root the person that was pulled in by the overpower. A little bit of CC overload on one person, but clearly it worked out.
Well, and it wasn't just that they did such a good job of locking down Ninu, but they made it hard for the Ruckus to make it in as well. A huge fight for them on that first point. So now a chance for ChromaSpace to start to show us what they can do when they're the ones on offense. It's 5randoms that have to fall back, and Ovum's already taken Spunky out of the equation. Nepo gets a kill onto Zarini as well. These kills certainly can be relevant if they're able to turn this into an actual push. Nepo with a delayed double there, taking down Exentra. A delayed triple, really. Gets another one now onto Ninu. A delayed quadra. Volca falls as well. A triple for him. Nepo ripping through the fight on this Vivian.
Vivian's existing, and this is what happens when you just let Vivian live. She's just raining down from anywhere she wants to be, and it's one of the most consistent backlines in the game. When you pick a Vivian, you know that they're not going to be super mobile, they're not going to have that burst mobility, but if you want to push a place where a Vivian is, you just can't. You just can't. You have to find some other way around or ignore that area. There's all these little small rooms on warders that Vivian can control so well. And look, Ruckus pushing the side, not where the Vivian is.
And he's going to have to. That allows for Spunky to get the first kill onto this one to take down Nebula. Adam falls as well on the Bomb King. So 2-for-1 so far in favor of 5randoms. This should halt the push for now, but Ninu wants a bit more, delaying now the kill her onto this Inara. So that's the reset for Chroma. They've got to start falling back and see if they can make another push happen. This time, like you said, though, they fought away from the Vivian.
They're going to have to keep doing that because Vivian is just controlling this so well. Barrack, one of the better tanks at sustaining in the game, just can't do it. Gotta say, I feel for Ovum. When you're an Inara and you're just looking at a Buck chipping at you, he has recovery. You're never going to kill him. No. Ovum just was waiting for sweet release at the end, just trying to get rid of it. Ninu, aggressive up top, finds Adam in the backline.
That's huge to get that BK out of the equation. Zarini finds Nebula. Another big fight as Zarini gets himself a double kill. We'll see Coreal later on as well. This was the push for ChromaSpace, and they're going to delay Inara's back and delayed respawn here too. So they'll maybe get one more good push out of this one, you say?
Yeah, 30 seconds. They would have to get the overtime trigger. You have to wait for Ovum to respawn. And again, Ovum just respawns from that Buck situation, mounts back in immediately. His whole team is wiped. He jumps off the map again. It's just like that sometimes. And ChromaSpace with good control over here, not really fighting near the objective. They're kind of giving up that area to them right now, but they know that they're going to get forced into the Vivian eventually if they give that up.
They're going to have to find some way through as Ovum gets rid of Spunky yet again. It's been a struggle for him on the Leon. It's felt like this game, but a double kill for Ninu on the Buck yet again as he continues to clean up the back line. Nepo, though, does find Exentra. No one actually on the actual payload proper, so that one does end up winding down. But I think that's to be expected there. It felt a bit like ChromaSpace weren't really able to fight back in.
Yeah, a bit of full chaos mode, honestly. And when they're getting dove in the back, if they try to split a little bit just to have some poke, they're not going to be able to do much of anything with that Buck and that Ruckus. Just poking from the sides and never letting them feel comfortable. I think that's kind of the point of what 5randoms are trying to do.
But I do think ChromaSpace are going to bring some decent tools with them into this next mid-fight here as well. So what does ChromaSpace have to do to make this one work?
Again, Overpower has to connect. They actually used the Whirlwind to defend that, so they don't have any good tools for countering any of those more aggressive ultimates like the Hexafire or the Buck Wild from the Buck. But it's going to have to be a good Overpower. Potentially, if Ovim can find them when they're grouping before the fight starts with that Seismic Crash, it could be an engagement tool. But look at the left side. So much resilience. They're going to have people there to clean up on it right away.
Vivian going in aggressively. They try and drop the Hexafire to answer right away, and it does. Nepo already out of the equation early on. The Khan now as well. A huge wipe in favor of 5randoms. ChromaSpace are the ones, though, that made another point first. So they have 31%, but that might be just about all that they get. 5randoms run them over.
That might have been the scariest thing I've ever seen in Paladins. Point blank with a Hexafire, with a Fear coming. I mean, that's terrifying, and you can see why. Barely Living Overpower does actually connect onto Spunky, so that's one person down, but they have to walk through an onslaught.
It is going to be an onslaught, and Spunky hasn't done that much. I don't know if he was the target. King Bong coming out now from Adam, trying to see if he can at least find some setup for the squad, but cannot get beyond the shield here from this barrack. 90% now for 5randoms. Someone has to get in and find the touch from ChromaSpace. They've got it to try and delay. Zarini does end up falling. This is huge. Nepo and Ovum finding 2 critical kills. A third one now in the feed as Nepo takes care of Exentra. ChromaSpace still holding on here for now.
5randoms might have actually had a chance there, but after Exentra got poppy bombed off the point, he didn't immediately recommit. He held on the bottom, was like, all right, my team will win this fight. And then they didn't. And then he just delayed and gave up 40% cap time, and that's what's going to give ChromaSpace this cap. Zerny finds 1 kill on the side, but they lost the point. That's the most important thing.
You're exactly right. Adam does end up falling towards the tail end of that fight, or rather finding himself a double kill on the Bomb King, and they can now move this strong point push into a nice payload push as well on the back of this fight, because the respawn's still staggered now for 5randoms. Barrack and Buck, the only ones that are still up here right now. Ruckus and Buck, excuse me, the only ones still up right now as they try and reestablish this defense.
Not a ton of super consistent poke out of Chroma. Well, never mind, I guess. If we're going to walk that close, Vivian's pretty consistent, but their range isn't that good. Look at this. They shouldn't be contesting this Vivian like this. They're taking so much free damage.
And there's really no return onto Nepo himself, right? It's a zero-cost trade in favor of ChromaSpace. Finds the kill onto Exentra and still lining up at the back. It's up to Spunky, but he has to retreat all the way back as well. This is a huge push. Remember how quick things went for 5randoms at the start.
And you can see all that sustain on their team, too. Con Shout, Rover Blossom, so much healing on this team to keep Nepo alive, and it's a huge threat, and Zarini's going to get traded here in the back.
Yeah, Zarini certainly is dead to rights there in the back of the fight. They've lost Ninu as well. Exentra does, at the very least, get rid of the Bomb King, but they still have a Vivian-shaped problem to try and deal with as she moves back in. Payload getting close, and they've got over a minute to work with to try and get this one capped as well.
Some early damage reduction from Ovim means it's going to run out right when they need it the most, but there's a lot of cover on this point. Can they use it well enough?
Inara trying to get to the back. They want to try and get Exentra out, but it's Ninu trying to make the dive from the Buck happen, then work so earlier that ends up failing here for them. Zarini now starting to adopt the kill speed, lighten up for ChromaSpace. They've tied this one up 3-3 as we move into what will be our final point fight.
ChromaSpace is using natural cover so well. They're not playing in the open too much, and they're just kind of baiting them in. That's what's turning this around, I think. That, and this overpower, of course. There's a reason, even after those nerfs to off-tanks and General Con is still pretty high priority. If you can look at anyone on the map and say, no. It's a pretty good ability to have on your team.
Yeah, I would argue that that's certainly a positive. Look here, though, 6, 10, and 15 for Spunky on the Leon. I just don't know if that's quite as much as what you've wanted from him, but I think because he's been the focus of ChromaSpace this game so far.
Yeah, I think it's hard for Spunky to... He's the one with the least survivability on their team. I mean, between Ruckus with the burst... Everyone has burst sustain other than Spunky, unless he uses his ultimate. And a lot of the times, you can't just spend it on keeping yourself alive.
Well, let's see if we see another Hexafire point blank in this fight, or if maybe Vivian has a better fight. It's the Khan that they try and lock down early on. Hexafire does get some decent value on the Khan to shoot through the shield, but Exentra gets the first kill of this fight. Zarini right there to follow up, and that means that this fight's favoring 5randoms. At least it was! It's checkerboarding in the kill feed here so far, but the ones in position are 5randoms. Still with the Barrack, still with the Dom, but to keep them topped up as well.
They're getting cap time, though, and that's really important in this 2v2 because that's going to force them onto the point eventually. But this respawn from Ovum is going to force them to back up, and now 5randoms on a disadvantage.
But you can't escape quite that easily. Excentra pulled right back in. A huge kill in favor of ChromaSpace. This Khan really showing just how valuable he can be as they try and grab a little bit more percentage to keep this point fight going. But now they've got Nepo back in position. He's the one to keep your eye on. His damage has been huge.
They're going to set up for a while. They have a lot of mobility, so they're not too worried about touching the objective. We just want to cauterize them, poke them, get them low until they're ready. Finally, Excentra's back, and that's going to start this fight.
Excentra moves in first. He's the one trying to fight positioning on the actual point itself. And Naro weaves the ultimate through, does get some damage, but not quite the shot I believe that he was looking for. Adam forced to retreat to more defensive positioning than what he was looking for as the point still favoring 5randoms right now. But ChromaSpace back on top, 87%, but the actual positioning favoring 5randoms.
Great by Zarini to distract on the side, and honestly, I don't think they can retouch. I think it's just over. There's no way for them to come back with the timing of the deaths.
Wow. This is a close one, man, wasn't it? 5randoms one that ended up coming out on top, taking Order's Gate here. And how does this one end up happening? Because it was so back and forth. This looked really initially like it was going to favor 5randoms. They're up 3-1. It comes back to the 3-3. I mean, how did we get to this point?
I think Zarini did a great job distracting Nepo, I think, in that final fight. Just keeping Nepo out from shooting the rest of the point. Point fight slowly goes in favor of 5randoms, and I wish ChromaSpace got punished for this more, but why was Coriel staring at the Hexafire the whole time?
No idea.
He literally used his entire shield and a Hexafire when his entire team was in cover right next to him, just praying that he would come join them.
He was the only person standing out there shielding no one else really for any relevant damage. Exactly, I'm right there with you. But that is only our very first map. There's going to be plenty more coming in this very first set. Give us a couple minutes and we'll be right back with you.